to more somber news. The government shutdown. We've talked about it a couple of times, and I think that now we're at least in it for a week. Everything I'm reading says January 6th is the earliest that things could resume. And I had Angela on the show with We Insure Tampa Bay, my lovely wife, a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about how it impacts flood insurance.
Right.
And obviously flood insurance got extended, so it's kind of outside the realm now because of something that happened with it. But there's an obvious impact with flood insurance that happens in these situations. But from a real estate closing and mortgage perspective, there's a lot of obstacles that happen from a government shutdown.
Right. Well, one with flood insurance, luckily we are, now, and this is probably more so the last few years, have other options outside of the National Flood Insurance Program. So from my understanding with the government shutdown, they're not issuing policies. So if you were going with them and you need to close right away, you might want to look at a private carrier, private market carrier. And, certainly that's something that Angela could check in to for people. So that's something to keep in mind. You don't want to do anything to delay your closing, but there's a lot of other facets with the government shutdown that could potentially delay closing. So for example, if you're doing a USDA loan, they're one sector that is currently shut down, so they're not issuing any loan commitments. I think a lot of people probably don't know the process for USDA. So you're essentially doing your regular underwriting. For example, if you're working with Atlantic Bay, we do everything up front. We get the file basically to an approved status, and we just need USDA's commitment. We then send the file to USDA, basically for them to put their blessing on it. Right now, they're not doing that. So if you're doing a USDA loan, which traditionally takes longer anyway, you could run into some issues with that.
Same with an FHA loan. There's some obstacles with FHA loans during a government shutdown.
Yeah, they are, and they haven't done this in the past. They still are issuing their case numbers, which sometimes is a bigger thing. There's some different back-end systems that have to go in with FHA, which could cause some delays. One of the bigger ones I think that is going to create issues is the IRS being shut down. So
yeah, you can't get tax returns,
right,
which are usually a qualifying step of that underwriting process.
Exactly. Most lenders, unless it's a portfolio program, whether it be a Fannie Mae loan, Freddie Mac, or any of the government options, FHA, VA, USDA, are going to require some sort of tax transcript, whether it be a full transcript or just a W-2 transcript. So with that section of the IRS being shut down right now, lenders aren't able to get those. Now, if the lender that you're working with is, for example, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or Ginnie Mae approved, meaning they can sell those loans directly to those certain vendors, then you can still proceed in some instances. So, for example, if you're a straight pay stub W-2 employee and doing, just an example, a Fannie Mae loan, we can get by if we have the actual W-2s in lieu of getting the W-2 transcript. So, right, but not every lender has that capability.
And I'll tell you the other thing about it. You've got Social Security Administration.
Right.
So if your compensation verification has to go through them, then that's going to be an obstacle. One other I think kind of missed caveat is, especially in Tampa Bay, we have a lot of government, DOD, military employees, especially out of MacDill Air Force Base. So even if they weren't using a VA loan or a rural loan, they were getting a regular loan, their employment still has to be verified.
Exactly.
They've got to provide certain documents that they can't get access to for this period of time. So there are definitely some challenges with real estate. And who knows, that it sounds like this is going to be a little bit longer of a fight than some of them in the past. So if this stretches for a few weeks, this is something that's going to cause some challenges. Fortunately, it's in January, which is usually not quite January yet, but the closings will be. It's not as busy of a time during the real estate season. If this was happening in June, I can't imagine it would have been gridlock. Yeah, so it won't be as bad because it's in January, but still definitely some obstacles happening from the the government shutdown and things you need to pay attention to. I think the moral of the story, though, is talk to your loan officer.
Yes.
Get a good understanding about what your situation is, what kind of loan you're in, and what the potential delays are for you. And that also goes, from a qualifying standpoint. If
Right.
you're somebody that, is using a VA loan and you're attempting to go through the verification process and some of these things, it's just gonna take longer, or in some instances not, be accessible.
Right, yeah, a lot of government employees, there are different systems for employment verification. Sometimes you have to go through third parties to get those, and they can be difficult, especially if no one's working. So definitely keep an eye out on that if you fall into that category, and talk to your lender to see if there's any alternative options or what might be able to be done. Or, just have that expectation up front that there might be a delay where, there normally wouldn't be one if it weren't for